Today I have a fun and kind of springy love and happiness card, and this is using an iris folding technique, which I'll show you how to do later, just to give you a glimpse at what we're going to be making today. Here's the inside, and this area is actually the evacuated area of this flower, so you're getting two uses out of that one shape. The products that we'll be using today are this iris folding template, Teresa's Iris Folding number 1. And if you're not familiar with iris folding, it's kind of a spiral design on the front of your card, and each of these strips of paper is taped down in a spiral pattern to look nice and three-dimensional. Well, it is three-dimensional because you can feel it. And in the center here, also we've got not only the flower shape, but the heart and the butterfly, as well as these three shapes. And the template, of course, gives you instructions. In the center of my card, I'm using two different things. I'm using the Paper Flowers 3D paper tool, which is this sheet right here. As you can see, I've already popped out some of those layers. On the inside here, I've used that big flower. So I've used a couple of them stacked, but I haven't used all of them stacked like on the page here. But as always, you don't have to follow exactly what the paper tool tells you to do. You can kind of experiment on your own. I'm also using the Beauty and Blossoms dazzles, and on the package here we're giving you a project idea, a couple more on the back. And here's a nice image of all the different designs. There's lots of pretty flowers, large words, vines, butterflies, hearts, things like that. And last but not least, the Rosemary and Thyme 6x6 double-sided paper pack. And this is one of my favorite new products because I love the tiny prints in here, and I love that they're double-sided. And not to forget, we do give you some card ideas inside the cover. So here are some of the pretty papers inside. Like I said, they're all double-sided, and there's some different color schemes in here. On the back, it's kind of easier to see what papers you're all getting in here. There are 12 different papers. You're getting 2 of each, so 24 total pages. But each of the papers is double-sided, of course, so you're actually getting 24 different designs. I love the colors on this. The Rosemary and Thyme does make me think purple and kind of a greenish color scheme. And there is sort of a category to these colors. There's kind of the purple, pink, and black. There's like a pink and green and turquoise, and then there's also yellow, green, and turquoise. So those can really mix and match to make endless combinations, and I chose to use the yellow and turquoise combination, and I do love how it turned out. So let's get started on making this card. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this, it's a yellow houndstooth pattern. There's the back of it. I'm going to actually cover the top section of the card. It covers most of the card. Since the card is 6.5 inches tall, it's going to leave a 1/2 inch right here, but I'm going to cover this blank space later. So I'm going to just put some glue on the card and place this so that it's using most of the paper, pattern paper. Okay, now to cut off the excess, I simply place my ruler at the edge, take my retractable knife and slice that off. Okay, next step I'm going to do is to take this template and I'm going to place the flower right about here. And then I'll trace it, and then I'll cut it out. Before you start cutting, make sure to open your card so that you don't cut accidentally through both the front and the back of the card. Usually when I cut these out, I start with my retractable knife and I just follow along these lines, just kind of curving my knife when needed. You could also do this with scissors, but I'm used to using this knife, so I'm going to use that method. So now I have that all cut out. Another method you could do is to glue your paper on first and then trace your shape on the inside, and that way you won't have to worry about erasing any pencil lines on the front. Now a cool thing to do now is to take a cosmetic wedge and an ink pad, and I'm going to actually ink the edges of my hole here so that it'll, once it's all filled in, it'll look kind of like a shadow effect around the flower. I'm going to be using Deep Lagoon, which is kind of a teal color, and just dabbing my sponge on the ink pad and just kind of brushing it through the petal shapes to get that shaded effect. Here I'm just showing it a little bit closer up so you can see that little bit of color that I'm putting on the edges here. And you can put as much or as little ink as you want, it just depends on what kind of look you like. Alright, so this is what the finished product of the inking looks like, and it gives a really nice green outline, and you'll see that much better once this flower is all filled in. And that's the next step. I'm going to start doing the iris folding portion of my card. And in order to do that, you'll see all the instructions on the template. But I will first, it tells you to cut out the window. Then cut out all the strips needed for your design. So all of these strips. And it says to do 1 inch by 4.5 inches of strips. Now sometimes I do 1 inch for the first strip because it's the widest strip. Here's strip 1A, so you'll see how wide that is. So I've actually got a strip here. So it'll be folded. Each strip is folded back on itself just a little bit to get that folded edge to line up with that line. So that lines up with that. Now you don't have to do every strip 4.5 inches. As you can see, they get smaller and shorter as they go along. So what I like to do is to cut my strips as I use them. So that way I don't need to use extra strips. I can keep that paper for something else, and I just cut what I need at the time. So just to give you an idea of what the flower is going to end up looking like in terms of colors, I've chosen this turquoise and yellow, like a mustard yellow combination for my flower. So these are the 4 sheets I'm using. These two are actually the same sheet. Since you get 2 of each sheet in the Rosemary and Thyme paper pack, you do have plenty of options to choose from. You're actually going to get 12 different papers. Now each of those are double-sided, so you're actually getting 24 different designs, and a lot of them are meant to be used together. So really a lot of different combinations you can do. So I've pulled both of this pattern of sheet out so I could show you all 4 colors at once, and they're all going to be arranged in that flower shape. So can't really tell too much from what I'm doing here, but all these 4 colors will be showing up on the final design. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling, cutting my strips and taping them to the design. So first I'm actually going to place a piece of white scrap paper underneath my template since it is clear, so that I can see it more clearly. And I've got my card here. Now I'm placing the front of the card over the iris folding template like this. And you'll be taping your strips down. But first I'm going to take some stencil tape and tape my card down so that it does not move. So I'm going to line this up right about there. Oops. And just place a small, just to tack it down, piece of tape on the sides. Okay, that's good enough. All right, now I'm starting in with my folded strips of paper. And since the shape kind of covers up some of the numbers, you might have to kind of peek under your card to see what number strip you need to put down. Now I want to point out that the full square design goes all the way from 1A to 44D. Now all of the shapes have different sizes, obviously, so you're not necessarily going to need every single strip that this square design calls for. The first shape that's showing most of its strip, or the first strip I should say, that I'm going to need is 9A. So I'm actually not going to need all 44 pieces. I'm going to start with 9A and just work my way around until I get to the center. So that's why I'm not pre-cutting my strips, so that I don't waste any paper. So my A's are going to be this pattern. So I've already got a strip cut and folded here, and I just need to tape it down. So usually I see about how long I need the strip to be, then I trim it to size, place it along the line, and just place a piece of tape on either end. And I find clear tape works fine. It's nice and thin, so you don't get too much bulk in your card. So that's the first strip. Now for my B's, which is over on the opposite side, I'm going to have this kind of a mustardy yellow flourish design. So I'm going to cut a strip for that and place it there. Now I'm going to cover this section, tiny section right here, with this strip of paper, and I've already got it nice and folded. So I'm just going to place it, kind of measure how much I need, then trim the excess. And for tiny slivers like these, I like to trim even more, kind of around this curve of the petal, so that my strip doesn't really go off the card. Okay, so right about there, and just tape that down. Maybe I can just use one longer piece of tape right there. And I'm actually going to have to get this stencil tape out of the way to place my tape. There we go. Alright, now I'm going with the C's. So my C paper is going to be one of the turquoise selections. So we're going to do this one. And this is actually the same paper as this first one, is just the other side. So I've got a strip here that's the opposite of this one, and I'm gonna place it on my next line here and trim and tape. I'm gonna have to remove some of my stencil tape here since it's getting in my way. And maybe trim this down a little bit. There's gonna be lots of trimming and taping in this card. Now I'm going to do my D's. And for that paper, I'm using this one right here. And I want the dark side to show, so I'm going to start cutting a strip on this side, scoring and folding it, and lining it up right on this little edge. So once again, I'm going to place, trim, and tape. And that's the general routine for all 4 sides. You just keep going around and around. Place, trim, and tape, and you'll end up with many layers at the end, which I will show you once I'm done. So now I'm done with the whole spiral of iris folding, and as you can see, there's lots of layers of strips and tape. And at the end, I also put a few long pieces of tape just to kind of secure my multiple layers of strips. So before I take off all my pieces of tape, I just want to take a peek at the front just to make sure that it looks how I want it to. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the last piece of tape. Now for the center, what I'm going to do is actually use the flowers paper towel, which is this sheet right here. So I'm going to leave that blank for now. But on the template, you'll see that there are several shapes on here, kind of accessory shapes. So there's a flower accent, a heart accent, and then a leaf. So you can use any of these accent shapes to either accessorize your shape or to put it right in the center. So the first thing I'm going to do now is glue a piece of white cardstock to the inside of my card so that when I open it, it's not going to be all this showing. So now I'm going to take some of this teal paper and I'm going to use my Beauty and Blossoms dazzles, and that comes in this package right here. There's quite a few really pretty dazzles in this collection. There's lots of flowers and vines with leaves and some inspiring words. But I'm going to use one of the lace border dazzles right here. So first thing I'm going to do is measure how much I need, and then I'm just going to cut off the excess with my retractable knife here. Just make a little slice in the surface of the dazzle. Then I'm going to carefully peel off. Gotta love dazzles because they're so easy to work with. And I'm going to place it on my paper here. And now I'm going to cut that out. It's really nice to have that nice dark thick black edge of the dazzle to follow along with your scissors. Now before I glue this along the bottom here, I'm going to take a little piece of this vine dazzle and make it into a short stem. It's got nice little leaves on there, so I don't have to add any. Let's see. I think I'm gonna trim off one of these little leaves. And try and place it right in the middle. Clip off the excess here. And now I can glue this right across the bottom. Now I'm going to place my greeting, which is going to be love and happiness. I'm going to place love up here in the top corner and happiness down here. Now I'm going to add a dazzle butterfly to the bottom corner right here. I'm going to use that same turquoise to keep within my color scheme, and I'm just going to place the butterfly right on the paper, and I'm carefully going to cut it out. Now when I come to the antenna and the body down here, I'll just kind of peel up those parts and then cut underneath them, so I don't need to cut around each little extension here. Okay, so I've glued on my turquoise butterfly down here, and I've also added a yellow butterfly here and a black butterfly to kind of balance out the card. So now all I have left to do is to add the paper towel flower in the center of my iris folding flower. So I've got all these flowers to choose from on the paper flowers 3D paper towel, but I'm actually just going to use these two shapes. And since it's going to be in the center of my flower, I don't want to cover up too much of this nice iris folding that I've done here. So I'm just going to stack those two on foam tape and foam tape it on top of the center of my flower. Now as you can see, the turquoise flower is kind of disappearing in the center of the flower, the large one. So I'm actually going to take black cardstock and mat it on that black cardstock. Just a real thin border around all of the petals. Okay, so I've matted this shape on black cardstock and then foam taped the smaller shape on top of it, and then in the very center here I have a small dazzle flower which I backed with that mustard yellow paper. And I've also added a little heart up under love here, and now I've got the front of my card complete. So for the inside of my card, I'm going to actually take the evacuated area of my shape on the front and ink the edges the same color, Deep Lagoon, as I inked the front, and I'm going to use it for the inside. Now that I've inked all the edges, I'm going to glue it to the right side of the inside of my card, right about here. And this is actually going to be a space for writing your own greetings. So I have it going off the card, so I'm just going to glue it down and trim the excess. Now I've cut off the excess, and I've also added this stem here and a few more dazzles and some paper towel pieces, and then we'll be done. Alrighty, so I've added the third, I guess this would be the second shape of this turquoise paper towel to the base of this card to kind of make a little scene here with two big flowers and this cute little butterfly. And I've also added the stem here. So this is where I would put my personal greeting, and my card is finished. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Simply Ann, and don't forget to click on the bundle for great savings on items used in this project. I'm going to show you those right now. So first in the bundle we have Teresa's Iris Folding #1 template, including the heart, butterfly, and flower. We've got the Beauty and Blossoms dazzles, and this is a total of 3 sheets of dazzles, 85 separate images. Then we have the paper flowers, paper towel, of course you'll get a complete sheet of course, and then the Rosemary and Thyme paper pack, which is one of my new favorite hot off the press products. So really excited about that, and I hope you enjoy.